Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Xbox news update surprise. We got some exciting stuff to talk about today. One bit of news really disappointed me. That's the Xbox 360 news because reality is beginning to sink in for those of you who are like me and in a bit of denial about where Xbox's back compat program was going and if it would ever be revived. We're also going to be talking about Activision Blizzard and how there's been another major update in the acquisition deal for that. An important one that does speak also to the future of our games industry and something certainly worth monitoring. We're going to take a look at the lineup of Xbox Game Pass games and much more in today's Xbox News update. So if you're new here and you're interested in Xbox news, information, discussions, all that stuff, consider subscribing. With that, let's begin with story number one, which has to do with Activision Blizzard. So over the past couple of weeks, you may have seen a story here or there pop up about Activision meeting with the CWA. The CWA is the Communications Workers of America, and they met for things like the Warzone studio and setting up a union for that, and Activision agreeing to set it up with them and pretty much complying and understanding that things aren't great in-house with how they currently are. So you're starting to see the games industry unionize. This has been a push internally for years and years and years among many studios, as there's been unequal treatment across many game studios, and Activision has really served as the breaking point for all of that, as we're seeing more and more North American studios begin to unionize. So with all of that progression, and Microsoft of course being at the table, they being the CWA, approving of the deal between Activision and Microsoft, and their reasoning is quite interesting, as it may speak to how these studios will be treated when they're brought into Microsoft. Here is the official press release. Today, the Communication Workers of America, CWA, sent a letter to the FTC in support of Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard in light of the groundbreaking labor neutrality agreement between the CWA and Microsoft, which provides Activision Blizzard workers with a clear path to collective bargaining. Microsoft's binding commitments will give employees a seat at the table and ensure that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard benefits the company's workers and the broader video game labor market, wrote CWA President Chris Shelton. CWA has previously expressed concerns about the impact of the merger on workers and has encouraged the FTC to recognize the importance of collective bargaining in addressing these concerns. The neutrality agreement, announced on June 13th, so this was in the heat of the showcase news, very easy to miss, reflects a shared understanding of the current obstacles facing workers under today's broken U.S. labor laws. These obstacles have been evident at Activision Blizzard, where employees have faced retaliation after advocating for improved working conditions and raising up troubling issues regarding a company culture of sexist and discriminatory practices, pay inequity, workplace harassment, and abuse. CWA has filed a number of unfair labor practice charges with the National Labor Relations Board on behalf of workers who are organizing for change, and the board announced in May that it found merit to allegations against Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is also under an investigation by the NLRB for its aggressive attempts to prevent quality assurance testers at its Raven Software studio from holding a union representation election. By establishing a free and fair process for Activision Blizzard workers to choose union representation and a pathway to collective bargaining, the agreement sets a framework for other employers within gaming and tech industries. So what happens here is Microsoft took a seat at the table with the CWA and went like, okay, we're going to meet in the middle here with this groundbreaking, they call it labor neutrality agreement, which will pave the pathway for Activision Blizzard workers. This is just another sign of what Microsoft is willing to do to make sure this deal goes through. And I think it's important because they're getting all the backing they can now, even from the CWA. So something worth noting, just because less of the deal going through, as I felt confident about that, whether this agreement happens or not, but also where the industry is heading with unionization. Something certainly worth monitoring, as it does affect the financials of things, and it's going to be interesting to see how certain companies respond to the call to arms. With that, let's move into story number two, talking about the Xbox 360. Oh, the pain, get ready, here we go. So the headline reads, from The Verge, Xbox 360 games will no longer be part of Xbox Games with Gold in October. I know your first thought for this has to be, Who cares about games with gold? I'm a Game Pass subscriber. I get it. I don't remember the last time I even looked at games with gold. I think, actually, no, I do remember. It was Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition, one of the best open world games ever. Please play that if you haven't. But anyway, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not going to speak for all of you. I don't really see much quality in games with gold currently. And I think part of it's because they're digging deeper and deeper into these unheard of Xbox 360 games that can be played on Xbox One, on the series consoles, and putting them as part of the subscription service. That is no longer going to be a thing. We're going to cry together here after we read the email that was sent out to gold subscribers, where they say, from October 1st, 2022, the monthly games provided to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Xbox Live Gold members via Games with Gold will no longer include Xbox 360 titles. We have reached the limit of our ability to bring Xbox 360 games to the catalog. However, Games with Gold will continue to include exciting Xbox One titles and exclusive savings each month. This will not impact any Xbox 360 games that you downloaded before October 2022. Any Xbox 360 games that you redeem via Games with Gold before that time are yours to keep on your Xbox account, regardless of whether you continue your subscription. Thank you for being a loyal member from Team Xbox. This is probably not surprising for like 95% of you paying attention and saw that they said we've reached our ability of what we can do with back compat. They even winded down FPS boost. Now they're not putting 360 games in Games with Gold, and to me that's a sign of like they're done. They're done, and I don't think they're going back. The reason why I think this is worth stating is many of us were holding our breath that maybe Xbox was toiling away quietly on backwards compatible titles for when the Activision Blizzard deal goes through. That's really what I was hoping for, you know, to surprise us with something like Singularity and back compat. But it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, and that's a real bummer because there are some wonderful titles in the legacy of Activision Blizzard. Whether you like the company or not, they've had their hands on so many great games, and some of them are gone now because of licensing deals, like the port that they did for Ultimate Alliance. Now the only way you can get Ultimate Alliance is like on Xbox 360 for $90 if you want the gold edition with all the DLC content. So having that modern option was great. There are other ones, like I mentioned, selfishly, I will always bring it up, Singularity from Raven Software, a wonderful BioShock-inspired first-person shooter. So there's a ton of great games that are in the legacy of Activision Blizzard that I'm sure you can all think of as well. And many of them will stay buried on these consoles. And I was hoping maybe with the announcement of the deal, they would surprise us with some more. That was a bit of denial, so I'll take total responsibility. I'm not angry at Xbox for sticking to their word, keeping the messaging consistent, but that was a little hope I had in my heart. Seems like it's not going to happen here. So what does this mean with Games for Gold? It means Xbox One only titles moving forward, and I do think that's better for the quality of the service. I have to admit that I think forcing in Xbox 360 games effectively put a limit on what quality titles they could bring to the service. When I look at PS Plus's monthly offering, it's quite honestly much more exciting. You know, we just had, for example, and I know not everyone's a weeb, but Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Strikers. I saw that, I was like, yo, that's a great game to put in the service. I'm happy with that. But when I look at Games with Gold, it's not bad. I mean, certainly there are great offerings in there month to month, but I feel like they haven't delivered the heavy hitters. And this is kind of the awkward conversation, right? I get why. I don't get upset because they're not heavy hitters, because I'd rather the heavy hitters be in Game Pass, which is the future service. Undoubtedly, they're going to, I would say, eventually sunset Games with Gold. It's just right now it makes them too much money, so they have to slowly wean subs off of that. And I don't think this is a move to get rid of subs, because, I mean, not many people are probably playing 360 games like I and a few others are. So that's what's going on with Xbox back compat. It's well and truly dead. And that hurts to say, but at least they did put some support in here. But now PlayStation, if they get that native PS3 support and PS Plus, watch out. Conversation will flip mighty quickly. Anyway, let's take a look at Xbox Game Pass, what I think is the future of Xbox's subscription services and not Games with Gold. They've added a number of games here, some of them very exciting, some you'll probably laugh at, but I'll explain why they're pretty good. So what we got here is Respect. We have Match Point, My Friend Peppa Pig, Adventure City Calls, Power Wash Simulator. Yep, we're all yucking it up. Don't worry, I'll break it all down for you. Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, Road 96, Escape Academy, Last Call, and Overwhelm. Okay, so looking at some of these offerings, I imagine the is starting to kick in. This is garbage. But I look at some of the kid games they brought in, like My Friend Peppa Pig and Adventure City Calls. I've not played these, but if there's one thing I can definitely say is that Xbox has lacked games for kids. This is really important whether you realize it or not, because we get a ton of write-ins on Defining Duke, and one thing I see a lot is about people being really happy with Paw City Patrol in Game Pass because young kids are getting into gaming through Game Pass. And so you have games like that. Yes, I am 27, but TMNT Shredder's Revenge is one of the best games of the year. But I'm no fool that you could hand that game to a little kid and they would love that too. So getting games like this into the service, that couch co-op, those kid IPs, really important to grow things here, because it's something that you need to target all audiences. Like parents who are getting Game Pass for their kids, you need to have games in there for them. So this is actually low-key a great move. I'm sure these games are not fantastic, but they're not for us, right? Many of us, I've seen the analytics, are in our mid-20s. So anyway, continuing on, Yakuza. Now all the Yakuza games are in Game Pass. That Sega partnership is looking mighty good, ain't it, right? We got them to bring over Phantasy Star Online 2 to the West. We're having them make Super Game with the Azure servers. They said no exclusivity is going to come out of that. We'll see. They're doing a lot of day one Game Pass deals. Now all of Yakuza's there. Excellent. We'd love to see it. Now, one thing I'm a very strong believer in, and I'm curious if people agree, I haven't played the entire Yakuza series. I have played Kiwami 1, 2, and if you want to tie in other RGG games, I've played Judgment as well. Played a little bit of Yakuza 4 on PS3, but of course stopped because, it's the fourth game in the series. So one thing I very much believe strongly is your first Yakuza game is your favorite. And I played Kiwami 1. I remember the story blowing my socks off, the world Kamurocho being so enticing, the mini games being so shockingly great. And I hop into Kiwami 2 and I'm like, it's kind of more of the same in the mini game department, but some of the mini games are crazy. Like there's an RTS in there. It's off the chains with its gameplay, but they got rid of some of the combo systems in Kiwami 1 that I liked. And I realized then I moved to Judgment. I thought Judgment was solid. I liked some of the detective mini games, but it felt like, as it is, a Yakuza spin-off. And what I realized is then I talked to my friend who played in reverse Judgment, then Kiwami 1, then Kiwami 2, and progressively liked them less as well. And same thing happened for my other friend who played 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, and then Judgment, and they like 0 the most, and then each of them subsequently less. So I am just a strong believer that if you haven't played a Yakuza game, you owe it to yourself to do it, because whatever you do play for the first time, you're gonna love. And the series is fantastic. That's not to say, like, for example, I like Kiwami 2 less than 1, that Kiwami 2 is a bad game. Kiwami 2 is excellent. I just think the story in 1 is, oh my lord. So yes, it's awesome to see all of these games in the service, because you have a lot to play in that series alone if you really wanted to go gung-ho with it. So just a lot of great additions to Xbox Game Pass here. Road 96 I've heard good things about. Escape Academy is relatively new. So a lot of cool stuff here. Last bit of news I want to get into. We did Trash Talk 343 a couple videos ago. We're going to go back to them again here and talk about Halo Infinite and some updates on co-op. Some of you don't care. Some of you are still waiting for this. They're doing a co-op beta flight test soon. So according to IGN's headline here, Halo Infinite co-op campaign beta drops July 11th. At last, it looks like Halo Infinite is nearing its long-promised campaign co-op. 343 Industries has announced that a 2-week-long beta preview of the feature is happening at last, running from July 11th to the 22nd. The beta will include the entire campaign and is available to anyone who either owns Halo Infinite or has Xbox Game Pass. Console players who are interested in trying it out will need to join the Xbox Insider program, and the beta on Steam will only be available to Halo Insiders who are signed up for the program by July 5th. Players will need to download the campaign build and start a brand new playthrough, and won't be able to carry any existing progress over. Beta progress will also not transfer back to the retail version of the game. However, this is only for the beta. When the full feature releases, players will not need an isolated co-op save, and co-op progress will count towards the regular playthrough for all players if so desired. All right, cool. Finally happening. I will see you all in the final release. I'm not really interested in beta testing this thing, especially with no save carryover. Just not that enticing, right? Now, I'm in a very unique position when I say that. Here's why. When I played the Halo campaign for review before launch, when they had given it to me like a month early, it was interesting because they had said then the save won't carry over. So I played it, and my plan was to play it again in co-op, thinking that would be ready sooner rather than later. Here we are in July. It's funny how life catches up with you. And now I'm still waiting on that replay, because if you go and look at like my Xbox profile, I don't have any achievements for Halo Infinite that aren't multiplayer, because I couldn't even get achievements while reviewing the game. I had some reviewer friends who skipped out on that because they were that dedicated to the achievement grind. I respect that. But for me, I wanted to really play the game and see what it was all about. So now I have the chance to replay it again. No progress saved again, no achievements again. I'm like, no, I'm waiting for the final official release to finally collect some campaign achievements. So that's why I won't be diving in. I'm curious to see what the general consensus from you, the audience, is. If you all plan on diving into Halo Infinite's co-op campaign, if the time has really passed for that, I'm still kind of excited for it. You know, despite everything that's happened with Halo and 343 being pretty messy, I still really did like parts of Halo Infinite's campaign, particularly the open world and exploration was very enjoyable, and being able to do that alongside a friend, I think will be more fun than we're giving it credit for. It's just, for me, the environmental variety. I even bitched about it in my review. I just can't, man. Ugh. All right, well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all of your Xbox news for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. What do you think about everything we talked about between the CWA, Halo Infinite's campaign, Xbox Game Pass, Games with Gold being shut down with its 360 games? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.